somebody's phone buzzing loudly?
Mine's on airplane mode.
Okay. They're all driving. Oh.
Joe, do you know where Allie is? Or Heather?
She should be back.
Here they come.
Here they come, George.
Thank you.
Allie, you all ready? Everybody set? Why don't we all stand up and we'll bring out the jury back here on the record. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Have a seat, please, and we'll continue on. Mr. DeAngelo has a cross-examination. Mr. DeAngelo, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Mrs. Loritz, let's go back to the beginning a little bit here. Now, you testified that your mom met Jim. Do you recall approximately how long after she first met Jim did they start dating?
How long after they met did they start dating?
Yeah.
I don't know the details of them meeting and dating, but I know that we met Jim in like September, October, and we moved in with him after Christmas.
Okay, so within 3 months, let's say, of when you first met Jim, you're already moving into his residence with his family.
Yes.
That's fairly quick, correct?
Yes.
You thought that was pretty surprising, at least at that time? I mean, you told investigators you were surprised how quickly you moved in.
Yes.
Okay. And your mom, to the best of your knowledge, met Jim over a CB radio?
Yes.
Okay. Jim was driving truck at that time, and your mom used a CB to communicate with him?
Yes.
And then when you moved in, you were discussed that you were part of a blended family, correct?
Yes.
When you moved in, did Jim accept you and your sister and your brother pretty quickly?
Yes.
Treated you like his own kids?
Yes.
And in fact, your mom treated Lisa and Wally, James Jr., as her own kids.
Yes, we were very much a family.
And when you guys first got together, your mom and Jim, you guys would do family dinners, correct?
Yes.
You guys would all sit together, you would all help pretty much getting dinners ready?
Yes.
And you referred to Jim as dad, at least at that time, and he referred to you as his daughter, correct?
Yes.
He never treated you as a stepdaughter. He was always treated like he was his own.
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, you testified that he walked you down the aisle. So you and Jim were pretty close, right?
Yes.
You told investigators that Jim was always there for you, to do things for you, to help you out with things, correct?
Yes.
He actually reminded you of a song. Do you remember the song you told investigators about?
He didn't have to be. But I think it was Brad Paisley, because he always was there as a dad for us.
And that carried special meanings for you, correct?
Yes.
And Jim was there more than your biological dad was, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, Jim was the one that did the visits. He would drop you off to your biological dad at that time when you still had to do visits?
Yes.
Your mom didn't do that, correct? Jim was the one that did it?
Yes.
He was kind of trying to protect your mom because of your biological father being somewhat abusive.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you were asked about some questions about Jim potentially being unfaithful. There was also some discussion with the investigator about when your mom was younger, she was going out with a few men before she met with Jim, correct?
Yes.
There was also a time where you were not too happy with your mother because she did maybe spend some time with people from a dart league, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, she spent the night with somebody, but that was the one time that you know of, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That was early on in their relationship?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the relationship you had with your mother, when you were younger, obviously very close, correct?
Very close.
And as you got older, you got married, you start having your own children, did that relationship with your mother change?
Not right away because she was babysitting the kids, and when we would go out for the night or a Christmas party or whatever, they would keep the kids overnight, and they were very involved in the birthday parties and things like that. As my kids got older and involved in sports, there was less time to be doing things.
Sure. So when you talk about your relationship with your mother, when your kids were very young, you let them spend the night there, you had no concerns about your family being
No.
with Vicki and Jim, right?
No.
Okay. And as far as you remember, Jim was always in the truck driving business or in the trucking business at McKeefrey's?
Yep.
Okay. And as far as you remember, did Jim always have like 1 or 2 beers when he got home?
As long as I can remember, at least.
Okay. Did you ever, what type of beer did Jim like to drink?
Most of the time it's Busch Light, but I've seen him drink other stuff.
Okay. And but that was kind of a work habit. Jim would come home from work, crack a beer, sit down and watch some TV, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as your children got older, they got more busy, you started working more, there was less and less time you got to spend with your mom, correct?
Yes.
Would you say in the 3 years prior to your mom going missing, did you see your mom on a regular basis?
I don't know what you mean by a regular basis.
Did you see her once a week?
No.
Did you see her once or twice a month?
I'm sorry, can we get a time frame on this? I'd object to the form of the question.
Your Honor, I did ask between the last 3 years before she went missing, which would be 2010 to 2013.
Thank you.
It was random when our visits were. At the time, my boys were in baseball and tennis, and a lot of times my husband and I would be eating dinner at the park with the kids. So, no, our visits were just random.
Sure. And as the visits became less, did you rely more on phone calls with your mother?
Yes.
Okay. How often were you calling your mother from 2010 to when she ended up going missing in 2013?
It varied on her moods, and it varied on what was going on. As I told Ms. Lemke, there was times where we had 3 or 4 phone calls back and forth in a day. There was times where we'd talk every day for a week. There were times that we wouldn't talk at all for the week.
Let's go up to the last year before your mom went missing. So we're going to go from April of 2012 to April of 2013. When was the last time you saw your mother in that time frame?
The last time I saw my mom was November 2012.
So November 2012, that was the time you went over to pick up some equipment, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Your mom had her surgery for her colon cancer in July of 2012?
yes.
Did you go to the hospital and see her for her surgery?
I saw her after her surgery
You saw her at the hospital, or did you see her at her residence?
at the hospital.
Okay. And did you just go for there for a visit, or did you spend the night there with her?
I went for a visit, but I went for as long as she was in the hospital.
Okay. Do you recall how long she was in the hospital?
A week, maybe?
Okay.
Not sure.
And then when she had the reversal, was that was October of 2012?
Yes.
Did you go see her when she had her reversal done?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you contact her after the reversal was done?
Yes.
Okay. Now this trip in November, was that the beginning of November or the end of November?
It was mid-November, like the 17th.
Okay. Did you talk to your mom about coming to pick up this equipment?
Yes, we had several phone calls between October and November for that specific thing.
And why were you what was the equipment they were picking up?
Some Dish Network equipment.
And why were you picking up the Dish Network equipment? Did your mom want you to ship it back?
Because they sold it to her under false pretenses, under my credit card.
Okay, so your mom used your credit card to get the satellite dish?
No, they told on a three-way call between Dish Network, myself, and my mom, they told me they could not use my brother's debit card, that they needed a credit card, and it would save her hundreds of dollars. And so they said they would only be charging my card $1 and then refunding it. And that, in fact, was not the case. And so my mom felt terrible and said we needed to send the equipment back.
Okay. So, if I understand right, the only reason you went out to the house that day was to retrieve the equipment. It wasn't necessarily to check on your mom, correct?
No, we were going to have a visit. She knew I was coming to get the equipment, but we were going to, anytime I went to the house, it was for a visit too.
Understood, but you mentioned, I believe that you testified that Sunday was the only day you could go out there because you were pretty busy the rest of the time, correct?
That day to pick up the equipment was the only day we could go because they gave me postmarked boxes. And if they did not receive them by a certain date, we were going to be charged $1,200 per item.
So when you did go out there and you were looking for the equipment, this is where you found your mom and she was on her bed. I think you described her as being in a t-shirt and some underwear.
Yes.
And did you try to wake your mom at that point?
No, because when he lifted her arms and she didn't respond and she just flopped back like that, that terrified me.
But you did ultimately end up leaving without making sure your mom woke up, correct?
Yeah, reluctantly.
Why didn't you stay until she woke up?
Because I believed, Jim, that this was like the accident or the incident that happened at the hospital, which I had not been there to see.
You heard about an incident at the hospital where she had this lethargic type incident where she was dealing with meds and she was somewhat not responding as quickly, correct?
Yes.
So this occurred, and you saw this at the house, and you trusted that Jim was telling you the truth.
I had no reason to not trust him.
But you said it frightened you. Is
It
that
did.
correct? I think you testified that you said, that incident frightened me.
It did.
It frightened you to the point that you left?
I left because he told me that if she didn't wake up, we would call the ambulance. He assured me she'd be okay.
So you went home,
Yes.
you called back, you
Yes.
didn't speak with your mother that night, you spoke to Jim again.
Yes.
And Jim said, she got up, she had a chicken salad sandwich, and went back to bed.
Yes.
And then after that, did you speak to your mother?
Yes.
When did you speak to her after that incident?
A couple days.
And you didn't bring that up to her at all?
I did not.
You didn't bring up your concern about how it frightened you?
No.
Any reason for that?
She was so embarrassed about the incident in the hospital that I didn't want to make her feel like it was happening again.
Now, you also described that you saw some blood on her shirt,
Yes.
and your mom frequently got bloody noses.
Yes.
Was that something she dealt with her whole life, or is this something as she got older it became more of an issue?
No, her whole life.
Okay. Now, when you went there that day in November, you said around the 17th of 2012, your brother Wes was there as well?
Yes. He was upstairs with his friends.
Did you go up and talk to Wes and say, hey, Mom's not responding too well? Is this common?
I didn't go upstairs, but he came downstairs.
Okay, Wes came downstairs. Did you ask him about it?
No, Jim was at the table talking to me about it.
And did you ever bring it up to Wes after the fact and say, hey, this kind of frightened me. Does this thing happen all the time for Mom?
No.
Now, as part of this investigation, you met with Investigator Jurgis, correct?
Yes.
And during that time, did you indicate to Investigator Jurgis that your mother suffered from seasonal depression and PTSD from October to April every year?
Yes.
So when your mom was having the bad times usually were from October of the fall till the spring, which is around April, correct?
Yes.
So moving to your mom's mental health a little bit, you testified that your mom had mental health issues. Is that as far as you remember back, she always had mental health issues?
She always had some sort of depression or anxiety.
Okay. The state asked you, or District Lemcole brought up the fact about the multiple personality issues, and you indicated that it was when you were younger she had these multiple personalities, correct?
It was before I got married.
So was it in your teenage years?
Yes.
Okay. So would she be with Jim during that time she had these multiple personalities?
Yes.
That was a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall any of the names of these personalities?
I don't off the top of my head. I only witnessed 1 or 2 episodes of it.
Okay.
I was not living in the home.
Okay. Do you know how many personalities she was diagnosed with?
I'm going to object to the relevancy of this. It's remote in nature, Your Honor. There's nothing that's been indicated that it's relevant to this incident in April of 2013.
No, I disagree. I mean, we've been talking about this, the mental illness the whole time, so I'm going to let this cross-examination
Thank you.
take
Thank you, Your
place.
Honor.
Thank you.
Now, Ms. Loritz, do you know approximately how many personalities she had?
No.
Okay. Do you know if she was ever determined by doctors that she was cured of these multiple personalities?
Standing objection to relevancy, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I think it's very relevant.
Yeah, I think it is too. You're overruled and your objection's noted. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, do you know if she was ever been told by doctors that she was cured of these multiple personalities?
I don't. I didn't go with her to her appointments.
Okay. So when it came to the depression, anxiety, she was always on some sort of medications as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the garage incident that you found your mother, correct?
Yes.
You said you're about 15 years old, maybe 16 years old?
Somewhere about that, yeah.
Okay. So this is roughly around the same time you indicated that she suffered from these multiple personality issues as well, correct?
No, that would have been before.
The suicide attempt was before that?
Yes,
Okay. So putting in a time frame, then you were a little bit younger than when the suicide attempt occurred?
yeah,
Okay. And you found your mom in the garage with the car running.
yes,
Was she with Jim at that time?
yes.
Okay. And since you were in your teenage years, did you have time to observe your mom prior to that incident?
Observe her, I mean,
Like-
yeah, we were.
Let me clarify. Did you have a chance to view your mom, how she was acting prior to her suicide attempt?
That day, are you asking?
Let's start with that day. Did you see her that day prior to the suicide attempt?
Well, yeah, I saw her that day.
Okay. What was she acting like that day?
I don't recall the details about that.
Did she seem happy?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
All I can answer is in the moment, she was not happy.
Understood that she was in the moment not happy. What about her dress? Was she dressed up, not dressed up, in normal clothes? What was she wearing? Do you remember?
I don't remember the details of that, I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you recall if there was any suicide note around that incident?
No,
So, was this the first time you became aware that your mother had a suicidal tendency? Was this garage incident, or was there
yes,
nothing previous to that?
nothing that I can think of previous.
You don't recall telling Detective Jurgis that you thought your mom had suicidal tendencies when she was married to Daryl Edges?
I vaguely remember saying something like that.
Okay. Moving on to the 2003 pill overdose. That is the one your brother found her,
Yes.
correct? Okay. And this is right around Thanksgiving time, so this has been November of 2003?
It was the night before Thanksgiving.
Okay. And how did you find out that she attempted suicide on that time?
I got a phone call, I think from my sister. I don't remember who called me, but I got a phone call and I went to the hospital.
So you believe that Stacey called you, not Wes or not Jim?
I don't remember who called me.
Were you talking to your mom regularly at that time?
Yes,
Did she give you any indication that she was going to attempt suicide in that time?
no,
Did she seem happy or sad around that time?
the holidays are always hard for her.
Was there any particular holiday that was harder than others?
Thanksgiving and Christmas fall during that time period. She loved them, but it also falls during that very difficult time.
That chunk of time that you indicated to the detectives that she kind of really went downhill.
Yeah,
Okay. And in that occasion, she left a suicide note, but that would be the first time that she left a suicide note, as far as you know.
yes,
Did you ever see the suicide note?
no,
Okay. The officers took the notes, and then you were never provided them, correct?
correct.
Okay. And nobody ever told you about the contents of those notes, correct?
Correct.
When she attempted this suicide in 2003, she ended up at the hospital. Did you go visit her at the hospital?
I did.
Did you ask her why she attempted suicide?
When I got there, she wasn't able to speak. She was hooked up to all kinds of tubes and machines. The priest was standing over her, giving her last rites. I stayed the night with her, and Jim went home. I was scared she wasn't going to live.
Eventually, she got better.
Yes,
When she came to and was more coherent, was she angry about being found?
she was angry.
Did she make any statements about that attempt?
It wasn't supposed to be like this.
What do you think she meant by that, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think Wes was not supposed to find her and that Jim was.
Why do you think that?
Because I believe that she was upset about Jim cheating on her.
Did you have any proof of him actually cheating on her?
I don't have any proof. I just know from conversations, both with her and other people.
Okay. You don't ever recall your mom saying the next time nobody's going to find her?
I was not there for her to say that. I heard that comment had been made. I had also heard her say she didn't mean that.
And when did you hear that she made the comment, nobody's going to find her, and then we'll move on to the next one?
She said, according to what I heard, that comment was made in the hospital
Do you know who she made the comment to?
to whoever was in the room.
Okay. Do you know who was in the room at that time?
No, we all had taken turns visiting.
You don't know whether or not she only said it to Stacey or Wes or Jim?
No, I don't.
And then you heard that she didn't mean it.
Yes.
When did you hear that comment?
When she went to Bellin from the hospital, she said she didn't mean that. She was just angry.
Now, in order to be released from Bellin, she would have to be in a stable condition, correct?
Yes.
So if she made that comment, it may have been just so she could get out of Bellin, true?
She wasn't at Bellin when she said that.
Oh, I thought you said that she was at Bellin when she
She
made the
was
comment.
on her way from the hospital to Bellin.
Okay, so she was on her way to from the hospital to Bellin before she could get released to go home.
Yes.
But again, she would have to be in a stable condition to be released from Bellin, true?
I guess.
Now, when your mom was in the hospital after the suicide attempt, you saw Jim there, correct?
Yes.
You indicated to investigators that you saw him hold her hand, cry a little bit, and hug, but then he left.
Yes.
And in fact, you testified that you stayed there the night and not Jim.
Yes.
You were kind of upset about that, correct?
Upset that he left?
Yes.
Yeah, because I didn't think she was going to live.
And did you also indicate that the next day he seemed kind of already over the suicide attempt?
We came in with the newspaper and he was just like he was visiting her like it was any day, like she was just in the hospital.
So you didn't like the way he was reacting towards her suicide attempt?
I guess you could say that.
Okay. Now, Jim and Wes deal with your mom and her depression more on a daily basis than you and your sister. Would you agree?
Yes.
And so them dealing with her depression and her anxieties on a daily basis would somewhat change how they react to her having bad days, say, than when you see her having a bad day. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Would you say that Jim and Wes are less emotional about how they deal with your mom than you and Stacey would be?
Well, I would think that that's even because we're girls and they're boys.
And would you also agree that Jim and Wes, their personalities, how they deal with emotional trauma, that type of thing, is somewhat similar?
I wouldn't understand
Let me ask the question this way. Would you agree, you testified that Wes kind of internalizes, does a lot of talk about
Yes,
Okay. Would you also agree that Jim also somewhat internalizes and doesn't talk a lot about what's going on at the house or what's going on with your mom very often?
yes,
Okay. So it's not surprising that the way Jim reacts to a situation may be somewhat off-putting to people if they don't know him, that he just internalizes everything, correct?
yeah,
Similar with Wes, right? If somebody says, you know, he didn't seem overly excitable, that's just Wes's personality as well.
right.
Now, moving forward to the 2008 accidental pills that occurred, Wes also found her during that incident, correct?
Yes,
And everybody's agreed that was more of an accident than it was a suicide attempt, correct?
yes.
Were you aware what pills that she took too much of were?
No,
Did anybody tell you what they were?
no,
Your mom indicated that this was an accident, correct?
yes,
Jim thought it was an accident, correct?
yes,
This is when Jim started to maybe put her meds in a different spot so she wouldn't overdose on accident.
he told us he was going to lock them up.
Okay. Did you ever see where he locked them up?
No,
Do you know if they were under lock and key?
she told me they were under lock and key.
Do you know if that ever changed after a while?
I don't.
When you looked around the house when your mom was missing, did you ever find the pills?
I didn't find the pills, I don't think.
Moving back to that 2012 scenario, was there any indication that your mom took too many pills that day, or was she off of some pills? Do you know?
I know that when she had her surgery, they took her off all of her medications and they were slowly putting her back on.
And all of her prescription meds for her mental health, those are prescription, do you know what types of prescription? Are they like a narcotic, or are they like, you know?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. But it's something they had to wean her back onto, correct?
I'm not really sure how that works.
Okay. Now, moving forward to the time when your mom went missing, so she went missing in April of 2013. The last time you saw her physically was on November 17, 2012, correct?
Yes,
And prior to her going missing in April, when was the last phone call you had with her? Was that around February of 2013?
I believe it was around February, and then after that, her phone had been shut off for a period of time.
Okay. And her phone was shut off. So starting from January of 2013 till the time she went missing, how many phone calls do you think you had with your mom?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Mm-mm.
Do you know, was there times when your mom was having, say, a bad time or a bad day, would she answer her phone regularly?
If she was having a bad day, no.
Okay. And at this time, you weren't speaking to her 2-3 times a day, correct?
Probably not.
Okay. There was also some mention about your mom liking holidays, but when was the last family holiday your mom actually attended?
The last family Christmas that we all were at was 2008.
So from 2008 to 2013, she didn't attend any sort of family Christmases?
No,
She didn't attend any birthday parties?
there was a birthday party she attended in there, yes.
When was that?
That was 2009, I think. Something like
Okay.
that.
Since the birthday party in 2009, did she attend any other family functions? Like holidays or birthdays?
No,
Is that a no?
that's a no.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. I don't mean to keep asking. It's the mask and
I'm
everything.
sorry.
So, no, you're fine. So going to the time when your mom went missing, you didn't get a phone call from Jim, correct?
No, I did not.
You didn't get a phone call from Wes either, correct?
No, I did not.
And the first time you heard about it was actually from your sister Stacey, who received a phone call from the police.
Yes.
Did you ever question Wes why he didn't call you or Stacey that your mom was missing?
Yes.
And what was his response?
That Dad said he was calling the police and he thought he took care of it.
Okay, he said he was calling the police, but why didn't Wes, did you ever ask Wes why he didn't contact you or Stacey and saying, hey, mom's missing?
Because I assume that Wes thought, by my understanding, that when Dad said he was calling the police, he would then be calling us.
Now, you testified that after you found out your mom went missing, you went out to the house that Friday, correct?
Yes, I did.
This was after the police have already done a cursory search with the dog.
They had been there doing some sort of searching, yes.
And then, did you go looking for your mom on the property that day, or were you told not to go because they're going to bring other dogs to the property?
I was told not to,
And who told you that?
Jim.
You went back to the property on Sunday, true?
Yes.
From Friday the 26th to Sunday the 28th, did you make any phone calls to any of your mom's other family members or looking for her or do anything of that nature?
I made several phone calls to Jim.
Anybody else?
No, because I did not have her phone book to call any phone numbers. So I had to wait until we went back to the house.
When you went out to the house on that Friday, did you look around the house?
A little bit.
And
Like search, but I mean, I glanced around the rooms.
you saw, and I think the state brought out your mom's purse. The contents of the purse that you saw here today, are those the same contents that were in her purse when you went to the house on the 26th?
Yes, except for I think there was some cash in there.
Other than the cash, was there any cigarettes in the purse?
Yeah, there was cigarettes in the purse, or
There
by
was-
the purse.
There were cigarettes in her purse at the time you saw it on the 26th?
They were either by the, or in the purse or next to the purse, but there were cigarettes there.
Okay. Your mom's a pretty heavy smoker at that time?
Yes.
And she would have multiple packs of cigarettes in the house, I would assume?
One or two in her purse, and then one that she would be having. She walked around from room to room with her ashtray.
Sure. Considered somewhat of a chain smoker. Even though she didn't smoke it a lot, she just liked to let it burn as she
Let
moved
it
around?
burn, yes.
Okay. But as far as you remember, there weren't any cigarettes in her purse when you looked at it on the 26th?
I don't remember if they were in her purse or next to her purse, but I saw cigarettes.
Was it an open pack or a fully sealed pack?
I don't remember.
The state asked you about your mom not leaving without her purse, her ID, that kind of thing, correct?
Yes.
If somebody was leaving the house and never going to come back, it's not absurd to think that they weren't going to take their ID or their personal belongings to identify them, correct?
I would think if my mom was leaving, she would have taken her purse.
If your mom was leaving and coming back. But what if your mom was just leaving to leave and never coming back?
How can you do anything without a driver's license or a social security number?
Well, going back to the idea that your mom has been suicidal in the past, if you're going to commit suicide, you're not going to take your ID, correct?
Correct. We would have seen a long chain of cigarettes leading to her, I would believe.
Potentially, right?
No, I just mean she is a chain smoker. I think we would have found a trail of cigarettes.
So let's talk about your mom and her mobility. At some point, she had the colostomy and she was using the cane,
Yes,
correct? you weren't out the house since November, and she wasn't moving around that day. You don't know what her mobility was since you hadn't seen her in person since November of 2012, correct?
Correct.
And you were testified that after her reversal, she was told that she needed to walk more to build up her strength, true?
True.
And she would probably have the ability at least to walk from the door of the house to the edge of the road, I would assume, correct?
She used to check the mail, yes.
So she would go out to the mail. So she was mobile enough to do that at least, correct?
Yes.
Now, did you ever contact your mother's treating physician the day that she went missing? She went to a doctor's appointment, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever contact the doctor's office about her appointment that day?
I didn't, but my sister did.
Okay. Do you remember that at that time, were you keeping like a running record or a log of?
I was.
Okay. And you did that almost every year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Just to be clear, you did keep a running record every year, just kind of your own personal journal?
Yes.
Okay. And you were asked, I think the DA asked you specifically on direct, that there was a time where you sat down with Jim, or shortly thereafter, that he was going to get rid of your mom's stuff.
Yes.
Do you recall that in December of 2013, you had a conversation with Jim about your mom's stuff again?
We had a few conversations, yes.
Do you recall in the December 2013 phone call right around Christmas that your dad said he didn't want to get rid of her stuff, he just couldn't do it at that point?
He, from what I remember from one of the conversations, and I'm not sure if that's the one you're referring to, is he was having a hard time with having her things surrounding him. And I had suggested that we put her things in storage.
Was there also an indication that he just wasn't sure about getting rid of her clothes because if she came back, or that he just didn't want to get rid of her stuff at that point? And that was December of 2013, true?
I don't remember that conversation.
If you see your notes, would it help refresh your memory?
Maybe.
Your Honor, we have no objection to him just reading from the document. We object to starting to file that particular exhibit, though, at this time. The parties had previously discussed it.
Your Honor, just to have her read one of her notes just to refresh her memory and she could testify to it.
Again, we have no objection to him. We'll stipulate to him just reading what that is to her and asking her if she recalls it or not?
Well, he had asked to refresh her memory, so let's do it that way. I think that's proper.
We have no objection if it's withdrawn after that, Your Honor.
What number is that, Mr. Dan? Exhibit 47, Your Honor. Thank you. Go ahead. Yes.
I'm going to hand you some marked as Exhibit 47. Does that look like a typed out version of your
Yes.
running record? Okay. Could you turn to the very last page, please? Just review that paragraph. Does that refresh your memory, ma'am?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Going back to the question, were you surprised that your father, Jim, did not want to get rid of the property at that time?
Yes.
And,
Let's use that microphone, Mr. D'Angelo, if we could. Thank you.
yes, sir. You were surprised that he didn't want to get it, even after you testified today and previous that you thought he was going to get rid of, I think you said, get rid of her shit, correct?
That is what he said those very first days, yes.
But after that, he didn't seem like he could get rid of the stuff.
In that particular conversation, no.
Now, you talked about that, I think it was either June or July of 2013, he sat down, you're sitting at the kitchen table, and he brought up about his friend Kathy Friday, correct?
Yes.
And you were surprised at that time that he was talking about another woman, correct?
Yes.
This is about 3 months after your mom went missing.
Yes.
And that's roughly the same time frame that your mom and him met, about 3 months, correct?
Yes.
So, as far as you could tell, Jim was a person that kind of needed somebody in his life, true?
I didn't know him before my mom, so I don't know that I can answer that.
Okay. But at the very least, you would say it was with the same time frame that he met your mom and you guys moved in together, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, it was talked about that when the dog searches were out there that Jim didn't go out and search with the people, correct?
Correct.
Wesley also didn't do that, true?
Correct.
In fact, Wesley and Jim never went on really any searches.
Correct.
Jim did go to one event, correct?
Yes.
Wesley never went to any events.
Wesley did come to an event.
He came to one event as well?
Yes.
Okay, so both about the same interaction when it comes to these searches, correct?
Wes invited friends to come sit with him, and Jim just stayed in the house.
Okay. Do you know which event that was?
The very first day, Wes invited friends to come, and then some of the searches that my sister and I organized, some of his friends came, and he came outside and talked with them.
Okay. The search that was conducted on Sunday, that was by Peoples and Paws. Is that true?
Yes.
Peoples and Paws was a group that the Brown County Sheriff's Office organized?
Yes.
Was that a civilian search? Like, were there civilians involved in that search, or was it strictly the police and Peoples and Paws?
It was, there was no civilians on that search. No, it was all professionals.
Okay. And the other searches that you organized, the civilian ones, the areas that you searched, were they the same areas that police have already searched in the past?
Some.
And some of the areas were just on a perhaps chance that you just wanted to check the area?
The philosophy was to expand the circle around the house, larger and larger. So they start small and then they go bigger.
Were there areas that were searched by civilians that were not searched by the police?
Are you referring to civilians as search and rescue?
I guess that they weren't hired specifically by the police department to help look, that you and your family were the ones that sought and organized it.
Well, we went down the Mountain Bay trails and we went further than what law enforcement went. And the rapid search and rescue searches that we helped organize, those were additional to where law enforcement.
To the best of your knowledge, between the searches with police dogs, cadaver dogs, drones, airplanes, sonar, dive teams, no evidence whatsoever was found of your mother.
No evidence.
And it has been indicated that Jim was the last person to see your mom, but really was Jim and Wesley were the last two people that saw her, correct?
Jim and Wes were the last two there with her until 7 p.m. when Wes left.
When you talked to Wes about his night, did he ever indicate when he thought he was going to come back that night?
When he thought he was going to come back?
When you asked Wesley about his night and where he went, did he ever tell you, I was planning on being home by midnight that night?
No, he never said
Your Honor,
anything.
we have an objection based upon a prior court ruling.
Your Honor, I was just merely asking the question if her brother told her about his whereabouts. I wasn't suggesting anything further.
Okay, why doesn't the jury go with bailiff Tom here, and we'll hear this argument outside the presence of the jury. Please stand. Have a seat, everybody. Ms. Lemko, what is your objection?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm waiting for the door to close. Your Honor, this is kind of what the state, should we take the witness off the stand? I'm sorry. Usually we don't have a witness stay on the stand, but if you.
Sure, why don't you just have a seat by Kim here, the victim witness coordinator. Thank you. Let me get the question that was asked.
I can tell you.
Here I have it. When, and I'll repeat it, question. When you talked to Wes about his night, did he ever indicate that he thought he was going to come back that night? Question. Answer. When he thought he was going to come back? Question. And that was, and it's followed by another question. When you asked Wesley about his night and where he went, did he ever tell you, I was planning on being home by midnight that night? Answer, no, he never said that. And then Ms. Lemko objected. Go ahead, Ms. Lemko.
What page is it on?
While Ms. Lemko's looking, Mr. D'Angelo, you said you were asking the question if her brother told her his whereabouts. I wasn't suggesting anything further. Why don't you expound on that?
Yes, Your Honor, I was merely asking the question because the district attorney's office theory is that Wes left and that there was so much time available for my client to do something towards his wife. And if the theory is that, our theory is that she committed suicide, how would my client have enough time to do something had he not known when his son was coming back? That's really the only question. So I don't think it's violating the previous court order. I don't think it's pointing the finger at anybody other than simply asking the question is a time frame to when he left and then when he may be coming back as to a scope of when Ms. Prokopovitz could have harmed herself.
But yeah, the question you had is when you talk to Wes, meaning the witness.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's different than your client talking to him.
Correct, Your Honor, but
Let's know how he got the information. Go ahead, Mr. Jan.
what I'm suggesting is did Wes ever say I was coming back at a certain time? I'm assuming her answer is going to be no, he never said so. And that was the end of the question.
You're right. Line 17, she said no. He never said that. When you asked if he was going to be back by midnight.
Right, more just clarifying, if he ever said, I told Mom I was coming back at a certain time. He said he told Mom I'll be back later. That was what his testimony was earlier. I wanted to know if she ever heard him say anything different.
All right, Ms. Lemko, go ahead.
First of all, it's hearsay. I didn't hear one exception to hearsay. Wes was the proper person for him to ask that of. To now have another witness there and start asking with respect to that, he's already got the statements in through Wes about the timeline. It's cumulative, it's hearsay. Furthermore, Your Honor, it's exactly what I was alleging. How are the whereabouts of Wes on that night not clear Denny evidence? We have a pretrial ruling. I'm looking at the transcript. It was on January 15th of 2021, specifically on page 16, where the defense, the court, any opposition to number 16, which was the Denny motion that was filed. The defense said no.
Well, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't see that at all. I mean, you're a lot smarter than I am, Ms. Lemko, and I've been sitting through this whole thing, and I don't see that there's anybody else that Wes is being blamed or anyone else for the death of Victoria. I don't see it at all. It doesn't even register. When you brought it up just now, it didn't even register to me. But what does register, Mr. DeAngelo, is that it is hearsay.
And
it
Your Honor,
is cumulative, and you asked Wes that very question.
Sure.
And that's the person you need to ask.
And Your Honor, I can completely understand it, and I'll withdraw the question, and I can move on with the rest of my cross.
I think you should.
We'd also ask it be stricken from the record, Your Honor.
That's fine, Your Honor.
All right. I'm just trying to see what lines we would strike. It'd be line 10 through line 17. Does anybody else, am I the only one with the real time?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay, well, that's when, the first, line 10 is when you talked to Wes about his night. Did he ever indicate he thought he was going to come back that night? And the answer on 17 was no, he never said. All right, so we'll call the jury back and you'll move on. I'll strike
Thank
these
you.
lines.
Thank
Thank
you,
you. If you come back up, that would be great. I'm sorry, what did you say? Oh, okay. First I'll. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, please have a seat. And we had a conference outside the presence of the jury, and I am striking lines 10 through 17. And that is, the first line 10 is when you had talked to us about his night, and line 17 is no, he never said. So we're striking everything in between, including those two lines. So Thank you very much. And Mr. DeAngelo, you're moving on then, is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Loritz, you have continually searched for your mother even yet today, correct?
Yes.
When the state asked you about a conversation you had with Jim about, do you think the police, to the effect that the police are going to come and arrest him, what year did that occur?
That happened, 2019.
2019?
I think 2019.
So this is after all the searches and a lot of investigation have gone on, and he's constantly been interviewed, correct?
Yes.
You probably don't know this, but I'll ask it. Do you know how many times he was interviewed?
No.
Okay. But he makes this comment after all the searches and everything has gone on and he's been interviewed. Did it sound like it was stated in frustration to you?
Yeah.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Lumko, do you have any redirect?
Just a couple areas. Marsha, you were just asked that question relative to Jim being upset and raging about some things to you. Do you remember him commenting about, are they going to come and arrest me? I think that's the comment he's just referring to.
Yes, I do remember that.
Okay. And with respect to that, were you surprised if someone wasn't involved with something, why they would say something like that?
Yes.
Furthermore, when you were asked by the defense about the fact that Jim and Wes had a similar attitude towards the searches, you actually responded that it was different, that Wes actually invited friends and people to participate. So he did act differently than Jim, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Although the defense is referring to physically going out and searching, did Wes appear to be supportive with respect to all the searches that you were organizing and were going on?
Yes.
Did you receive information around the time that you were even having benefits that Jim was with Kathy during one of them and not participating, looking for Victoria?
Yes, and in fact, Wes is the one who gave us the name of one of the search and rescue teams to contact.
Okay. So he attempted to assist you in efforts?
Yes.
In fact, when the defense was asking about Jim's attitudes towards things, in fact, were there times that you saw that he was frustrated with some of the searches?
Yes.
Now, at the time of these searches, God bless you. The time of the searches, you were present during most of them?
Yes.
And when we're talking about the attitude of Jim during those searches that the defense just asked you about, in fact, was there individuals that came forward a little frustrated with Jim's attitude during the searches
Yes.
and concerned about Jim's conduct during the searches?
Yes.
Were there searches where Jim was sitting around in his recliner drinking beer?
Yes.
Were there other times he was out on a riding lawnmower doing his own thing without assisting?
Yes.
Were these things embarrassing to you?
Yes, we didn't know how to answer why he was doing those things instead of helping with the searches.
Were there private citizens that came forward from Pulaski to assist in the searches?
Yes.
Were some of them complete strangers to you all?
Yes.
Is that why you would feel bad they gave their time to this endeavor?
Yes.
Were there people that questioned why Jim wasn't assisting?
Yes.
Did you really have an answer for that?
I said he was tired.
Okay. I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 48. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
Is that your handwriting on the top?
It is.
And what is this sheet of paper?
It is something that I wrote down during one of the searches after a couple comments were made, and we decided it was time to start writing down some of the things that were being said that we felt uncomfortable about.
So let's talk about this. By the time you're documenting these comments, this isn't the first time that Jim has made comments like this.
No,
In the searches previous to this, were there even other comments that had been made by Jim?
yes,
And were some of those comments made in the searches just within the first week or couple weeks that your mother went missing?
yes,
And irrespective of the comments on this sheet, Exhibit 48, do you recall what some of those comments were?
we were wasting our time. She's nowhere around here and she's never coming back. And there was even an occasion where he said that she was dead, she's nowhere around here and she's never coming back.
He used those words, she's dead,
Yes,
and she's never coming back.
and she's never coming back. That was said several times.
And you were wasting your time.
We're wasting our time.
Besides those that you just now independently recall as you're sitting here, on the sheet of Exhibit 48, are the comments on this sheet also consistent with what was said?
Yes,
And what was the first line on this sheet?
she's not around here.
What's the second one?
She had to have gotten a ride.
And the next one?
I don't know where, how, but she did it good this time.
And the next line?
We got to move on. She's not coming back.
And the next one?
She's 100 square miles that way towards the Pulaski area.
When he made that comment, did he point anywhere?
He was sitting at the kitchen table and he pointed towards the window.
And indicated she's 100 square miles that way?
Yeah, I don't know what 100 square miles is.
And the line then, where do you think she is? Was that
Where
you
do-
asking him?
Yeah, I asked, where do you think she is? I don't know. I just don't know.
Whose response was that?
That was Jim's.
Okay. And then the next line?
You're going about this search all wrong. We're wasting our time. She got a ride and she's not around here. She got a ride.
Let's talk about that, Marsha. So in this sheet, initially he's saying she did it good this time. What did you take that as?
That she committed suicide.
And then there's multiple times that he's indicating she got a ride, right?
Yes.
Now, based upon the overall search that occurred in this case, did you have any information, credible information, that your mom could have gotten a ride on this date?
No.
And based upon your personal knowledge of her conduct and her activities, would it have been reasonable to believe she could have gotten a ride?
No.
And based upon the information overall in this case, do you have concerns that something else happened to your mom?
Yes.
Now, you got asked some questions, Marsha, about your attitude towards your stepfather, Jim. And you conceded you did love him. He raised you like you were his daughter. Is that right?
Yes.
Based upon what has happened in this case, did that relationship change?
Yes.
And the information that you got in this case, is that inconsistent with what you did know of your father, Jim?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
the overall investigation and how Jim has acted since your mother has gone missing, has that changed that relationship?
Yes.
And when the defense asked you about the fact that Jim was not, specifically they said not overly excitable, isn't it true that he has called you upset during this investigation based upon some of the searches and things that were going on?
Yes.
Also, the fact that people, Kathy Friday's associates, were getting subpoenaed in the case. Is that correct?
Yes, he was angry.
As Jim became involved with Kathy Friday, did you see his attitude towards you and your siblings and your family change?
Yes.
Did he become very invested with his relationship with Kathy Friday?
Yes.
And what did he seem to care about most after your mother was found to be missing?
Moving on.
And who did he appear to be concerned about?
Kathy.
And lastly, when you were just asked some questions, has this process been difficult for you? Because when you're asked about something, your perception is it's been taken out of context?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Sure. When you've been asked some questions about your mom or how your mom was, has the overall process been difficult for you, having your family exposed to the scrutiny that's occurred in this case?
Yes.
And has that even occurred in the trial that's now occurring?
Yes.
And since your mom left, you got asked by the defense about your life since she left. Are there things that have occurred since she went missing in 2013 that you wish your mom had been around for?
Yes, she has 4 great-grandkids that she would be very excited to be spending time with.
And did you have a significant wedding anniversary?
Yes, my husband and I celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary, and that would have been very important to her.
And you loved your mom?
I loved her very much.
I have nothing further.
Thank you very much. Mr. DeAngelo, do you have any recourse?
Yes, Your Honor. Loritz, when did you write Exhibit 48? What year?
2013.
At the end of 2013?
No, I wrote that at the June search, 2013.
Okay. And this is after they've been searching for your mom on a number of different occasions, correct?
Yes.
Always been Jim's contention to you that your mom committed suicide, correct?
That's the original. But when we started questioning further that you can't hide your body once you're dead, and we couldn't find her, what could have possibly happened, then it became she ran off with another man.
As far as you know, Jim doesn't know where your mom went. He just said that she left or committed suicide, but he doesn't know where or how she did it. As far as he has ever spoken to you, he's never said, I know exactly where she is.
Right.
And your opinion of Jim, as time went on, has changed from this is a missing persons case to Jim is the responsible party, correct?
Yes.
And that was forged by your own personal opinion or based on all the fact that you couldn't find your mother anywhere?
Based on everything I experienced since my mom went missing.
And you're still pretty angry about the fact that he moved on to a new woman, Kathy Friday, correct?
I'm not angry that he moved on. I'm not happy he moved on so quickly and the way that things happened. The comments that were made about never marrying my mom.
Was those said out of frustration?
He was not frustrated when he said that.
The state alluded to that you made a comment that, you know, your mom would get depressed or sad, or she tried to commit suicide when she thought your father, Jim, was unfaithful. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
There has been some allegations that Jim was unfaithful to your mom prior to her going missing. Is that your understanding as well?
I'm just objecting. I didn't object to the last one, but now I am. This is outside cross. This is, or I'm sorry, redirect. This isn't anything we just went into.
I'll withdraw the question, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your attitude towards your father, turning it from a missing person to something more, when did that occur? What year?
In 2013.
So from 2013 all along, you suspected that your father had something to do with your mom's missing?
I suspected that there was something that he wasn't telling us.
But you didn't relate that to anybody up to this point, up to that in 2013, not until later on, correct?
The day of that conversation, when he said, had he known that Kathy had gotten divorced, he'd have never married my mother. My mom was only missing 2 to 3 months, and that day changed things for me.
That was the day that you no longer had the same feelings towards your father, correct?
That's when things started changing based on other things, like him stopping taking my phone calls and things like that.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may step down, and thank you very much. Your next witness, please.
Your Honor, I would just for clarification, I'm withdrawing 47. I think the state offered 40. Or I'm not sure. Withdrawing 47.
All right, then 47 is withdrawn. Thank you, Marvin. Mr. DeAngelo, on 48, do you agree with that admission or not?
Oh, the admission of 48. Yes, Your Honor. No objection.
All right, then I am receiving Exhibit 48. Thank you. And your next witness, please.
The state's going to be calling Tim Sheehy, Your Honor.
All right.
Will you please remain standing and raise your right hand? You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may be seated. In And will you please state your name for the record and spell both your first and last name for the court?
Kim Sheedy, Kimsheedy.
Thank you.
Is it Miss or Mrs.?
Mrs.
Mrs. Okay. Mrs. Sheedy, how are you currently employed?
I'm the office manager at McKeefery & Sons
And how long have you been employed as the office manager?
since 2004.
Okay. And is that when you also started with McKeefery & Sons?
Yes,
So for the past 17 years or so, you've been the office manager?
yes.
Okay. And what are some of your job responsibilities as an office manager for McKeefery's?
I handle benefits, payroll, accounts payable, receivables, taxes.
And the benefits portion of your job, would that mean that you're familiar with the health insurance or dental portion of employment with McKeefery's?
Yes,
Okay. And does that include sort of overseeing or handling if somebody modifies or changes their health insurance?
yes,
Okay. Are you familiar in the course of your employment with McKeefery & Sons, whether there was an employee by the name of James Prokopovitz?
yes.
And was there a nickname that you knew him by?
Curly.
Is that what he commonly went by with people who worked at McKeefery's?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you were working there, would you have much interaction with him?
No,
Did he work sort of at a different site?
right. I worked in the office and he worked at Georgia Pacific,
Where is the office located?
right in Pulaski.
Okay. But you have employees with McKeefery's who sort of work elsewhere, not at that Pulaski site.
Correct.
So outside of work then, did you have much interaction with Mr. Prokopovitz?
No,
Okay. I'm going to direct your attention to a time, ultimately, I guess, did you become aware at a certain point in 2013 that Curly's wife had gone missing?
yes,
And would that have been in about April of 2013?
yes,
Okay. And at a certain point thereafter, do you recall being approached by Mr. Prokopovitz with respect to his health insurance?
yes.
How do you recall that conversation?
He had just asked me how long he'd have to wait to get Victoria off the policy, like change it to from an employee spouse to a single coverage.
So based on your recollection, his comment was how long he had to wait to get her off his coverage?
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall when this conversation would have occurred?
I think it was probably about a month after, like sometime in maybe at the end of May.
Okay. So if you were to learn that Vicky went missing in that later part of April, you believe it was sometime in May then that comment was made?
Yes,
And I guess generally with respect to the health insurance with McKeefery's, is that something that's offered through your employer?
yes,
And does an individual who's employed with McKeefery's have an option, a single plan, a family plan, something else?
yes.
And how does that process work for McKeefery's?
Well, they either have a single employee spouse or family coverage, and McKeefery & Sons is always paid half, and then the employee is responsible for the other half, no matter if it's single coverage or family or spousal.
Okay. So is there a, I guess, yearly or annual selection period?
Yes.
And when is that typically?
I don't recall back then, because now it's December.
Okay.
I don't know if it was a different time
Okay.
back then.
Back in 2013, was there a form that McKeefery's used to allow an employee to mark their selection with respect to health insurance?
Yes,
Okay. And is that something that you are familiar with as office manager?
yes,
Would you sort of collect those forms?
yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Oh, thank you.
showing you what's being marked as Exhibit 49. I'll ask if you can recognize that exhibit.
Yes.
And what is that?
All the employees had to pick what kind of coverage they wanted for the health insurance or dental, or if they were waiving any or all the insurance benefits, and then sign and date it, so we had record of their choice.
Okay. And is there a name on that document?
Jim Prokopovitch?
Okay. And this would have been a form that you would have collected as an employee. He's submitting that with respect to his health insurance?
Correct.
Okay. And you were subsequently, in the course of this investigation, requested to provide that to law enforcement?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And this form is consistent with what you collected?
Yes.
I'd move, I think it's 49.
Yes.
I'd move 49, Your Honor.
Any opposition, Mr. DeAngelo?
No objection.
Then I will receive Exhibit 49.
So with respect to Exhibit 49, Ms. Sheehy, what is the, I guess, plan year that's noted on the form?
It's just that our health insurance or the dental, they had their choice to select. And then which plan they were taking, the single, employee spouse, employee children, or family.
Okay.
Each.
And it's essentially noted September 1st, 2013 to September 1st, 2014. Would that have been the plan year?
Yes.
And that was in 2013, so essentially it started in September?
Right, correct.
You said now it's in December?
Correct, yep.
Okay. So with respect to, there's a section labeled health insurance. What options are available to an employee at McKeefrey's?
Single, employee spouse, employee children, or family.
Okay. And which option was marked on this form?
Single.
Was this a form that, or that the employees themselves would fill out?
Yes.
So then Mr. Prokopovitz is the person who would have filled this form out?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a cost difference with respect to employees paying into health insurance based on, is it a single or a family option? Is there a price difference?
Yes.
And what is the price for a single family option?
$62.92 per week, because our payroll was weekly, or $125.84 for employee spouse.
Okay. And it is on a weekly basis?
Yes.
Okay. And the option that you indicated was marked was single?
Correct.
Okay. Is there also a section of the form with respect to dental insurance?
Yes.
And is that separate for McKeefrey's than health insurance?
Yes.
And again, which are the same four, I guess, options available for an employee with respect to dental insurance?
Yes.
And on this form, on Exhibit 49, which option did Mr. Prokopovitz check?
Single.
And like the health insurance option, is there a difference in the weekly premium?
Yes, single is $9.10 a week, and employee spouse is $19.30.
Okay. Is the form signed and dated?
Yes, signed and dated 8/28/13.
So to your knowledge then, this form would have been completed in August of 2013?
Correct.
But you recall Mr. Prokopovitz in May of 2013 asking you how to change essentially his health insurance and dental insurance.
Right.
But essentially, because the plan begins in September, it couldn't be done until September?
Right.
I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Then, Mr. DeAngelo, do you have any cross?
Yes, Your Honor. Now, ma'am, you've been asked about this form. Mr. Prokopovitz didn't sign this until August 28, 2013, correct?
Correct.
He asked you about changing it, you think, at the end of May. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Now, essentially, the difference between an employee spouse down to a single is the difference is $62.92 for the health insurance, correct?
Correct.
And the difference between the employee spouse down to a single for the dental insurance would be a $10.20 per month, correct?
Correct.
Or per check.
Per check.
So essentially, for health insurance per month, if he went down to a single, he'd be saving $270 or roughly $3,200 a year.
Correct.
The same thing with his dental insurance, he would be saving an additional $530 per year, so a total of $3,800 in savings, correct?
Correct.
Do you know how much Jim was making at the time he was employed at McKeefrey's in 2013?
I don't recall.
Would this be a significant savings for somebody to reduce it?
Yes.
And did you ever know Jim to be somebody who had a lot of wealth?
No.
No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Saunders, do you have anything else?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
You're excused then. Thank you very much. You're free to go. If you would call your next witness, then.
I would ask the witness to be excused, Your Honor.
Pardon?
I would ask the witness be excused.
Yeah, yes, the witness is excused.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good to go then. Thanks.
Thanks, Marvin.
Thank you. Can we move to the issue then? Okay. Do you think it's Jushka?
If you come up here, please. Thank you.
Karen, I don't know if I said the witness's name, but the state is calling Lieutenant Christopher Jushka to the stand.
Thank you.
Will you please remain standing and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay, you're a witness. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you please repeat your full name?
Yeah, my name is Christopher, and last name is Jushka, Jushka.
Okay, I wanted to see if I said it right, so it's Jushka.
That's correct.
Okay.
So
I-
Jushka.
Jushka.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And are you employed?
I am.
How are you employed?
I'm currently captain with the Wisconsin State Patrol. I supervise our special operations section.
Okay, so I referred to you as lieutenant, but you've been promoted.
I was promoted. When I assisted on this investigation, I was a lieutenant. and
Okay.
That was about 2 years ago.
And so since then, that's when that happened?
That's correct.
All right. Well, specifically, you work for the Wisconsin State Patrol?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you been so employed by them?
I've been with the State Patrol since 1995.
How many years is that?
It's been hard to remember. I think I'm at, I'd have to do the math. I know law enforcement-wise, I'm at 29 years because I was with the City of Lake Mills for 3 years. So I think it's 26 years of State Patrol.
Okay. And in the course of your specific position there now is captain?
That is correct.
Okay. And previous to that, had you been a trooper and then a lieutenant?
I started as an inspector and then a trooper and then sergeant and then lieutenant and now captain.
Okay. And with respect to your role then working with the State Patrol and in law enforcement, do you have training and experience with respect to investigating criminal instances of conduct?
Yes, ma'am.
And on occasion, has that been to assist in investigations involving allegations of homicide?
Yeah, very rarely, unless it's related to a traffic crash. This was a little different than what the State Patrol usually gets involved in.
Okay. And had you actually been asked to assist through the Brown County Sheriff's Department and DCI?
Yeah, I actually received a notification from DCI to provide assistance with air support, both manned and then later unmanned, to photograph and look for evidence at a property involved in a criminal investigation.
Okay, and could you explain for the jury, what do you mean by manned and unmanned?
Yeah, so one of my jobs as a state patrol captain with special operations is the state patrol has an air support unit. We have 3 fixed-wing aircraft, and we have currently 12 drones. I think back at that time we had 10 drones, but part of my job and my responsibilities is to manage that. So DCI had contacted me directly as the manager of our air support unit, looking for access and support with our aircraft and our drones.
Okay, and so, just so it's also clear for the jury, what do you mean by your air support division?
Yeah, we kind of have 2 sections in there. As I mentioned, we've got a manned aircraft program of 3 fixed-wing Cessna aircraft that does, you probably heard about our traffic enforcement efforts out on the interstates and some of the main highways, but we also do a lot of search and rescue. We do a lot of work supporting other agencies with photography and investigations. And we do the same thing now with our drone program. And when I was asked to assist, that was kind of the start of our drone program. I think that was our second request. But again, kind of the same thing. We're there to support other agencies, and in this case, we were asked to support them with drones and photography and videography.
So the Wisconsin State Patrol doesn't just assist in traffic violations, you have this division as well with respect to the drones and the aircrafts?
That is correct, yes.
Now, when you initially started talking about aircrafts, and I guess I'm educating myself as well, when you're talking about the aircraft division, you're talking about drones, correct, as opposed to like planes?
I'm talking about both, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
I supervise our manned aircraft program and our unmanned aircraft program.
Okay.
They're combined into our air support unit.
So I'm following. Maybe it's late in the day. The manned would be an airplane. The unmanned is a drone.
That's correct, yes.
Got it.
Uh-huh.
So just so for anybody who doesn't know what a drone is, what is a drone?
Well, I guess I wasn't quite prepared for that, but I think we all know what drones are, but I'll briefly describe what ours are capable of. Might be probably the better thing is it's a 4-bladed flying robot. Can be controlled from the ground, and it can be controlled autonomously. We can set up flight paths for it to follow, and it will do what we ask it to do as far as taking photographs and videography. It transmits a signal from the drone back to the controller, so I can see on a small screen what the drone is seeing. At the same time, the drone is also recording photographs and video of what it's capturing, and that's collected on an SD card in the drone. And then when we land the drone, we have all those images and videos contained in an SD card. So we can go out and fly. We're limited by battery because it's electric. So we have several batteries, and we can fly until those batteries are done and then recharge. But the main focus of the drone is to take photos and videos, and that's what we use it extensively for.
So in this investigation, when you were brought in on an assist, was this being done manned with an airplane as well as unmanned with a drone?
That is correct. Both requests came in for our manned airplane and drone support.
Okay. And is there a difference with respect to the ability, I'm just thinking of heights and elevation, that a drone has the ability to get closer to the surface or the ground visually to take pictures than an airplane would?
Yeah, and that's a very, very good point. And one of the benefits of the drone is it can fly low and it can fly slow. In fact, it can stop and hover. Our airplane is flying at about 100 miles an hour, and it has to be up at altitude, generally at least 500 feet, more likely 1,000 feet. But the drone can be 50 to up to 400 feet. That's the limit of the altitude. But The wonderful thing about drones is how slow it can fly, and we can actually stop and take quality photographs.
So both of these unmanned and manned aerial assists are something that could function in different ways, but both being able to assist and give different vantage points.
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. Now, on this date, and specifically, I'm looking at, or directing your attention to May, well, wait, strike that. With regard to the drone, is this something, this might be my own edification, that you are verbally asking or giving commands to, or is it something that you're manually using your hands to?
Yeah, there's two ways to control the drone. One is through manual control, through a remote control, and then we can also program it to do an autonomous flight. So we set the path it'll fly, and we press start, and it'll lift off, fly its mission, and come back and land.
So I guess that's your point when you were testifying. If in fact it would be on any path and there would be something suspicious or something noteworthy, you could stop it and photograph it as well.
Yeah, what we do with an autonomous flight is we set it to just continue to take photographs. So think of a lawnmower as you're cutting your grass. It goes down one way and it comes back. And then it goes down the other way and it comes back. That's what we do with the drone on an autonomous flight. While it's making that lawnmower pattern, it's continually taking photographs. And you can actually, if you wanted, put those photographs into one big map and make one big photograph of the scene. We didn't, or I didn't in this case, but that's what the drone did, is it just took all the photographs in the autonomous flight portion when we were flying there.
Now, with respect to, and I'm directing your attention to May 10th of 2019, that was the date that you were coming in on this assist with this case. At that time, did you have a briefing at the Appleton DCI office about what the suspected flight plan was going to be for this day?
Well, we met at the Appleton DCI office about 12:30 in the afternoon. We were briefed. One part, state law requires us when we're looking for evidence with a drone that there's got to be a search warrant signed. And we discussed the search warrant. I was allowed to see the warrant. We also discussed the search area, but not to the specifics until we actually got out into the field.
Okay. And was this an assist that actually had been requested by Special Agent Jay Yurgis, who's seated next to me?
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay. So on this date, when you are doing this drone search, I'm presuming there were there other agents or individuals that were assisting with respect to this?
There was a DCI agent, I'm not sure who, I believe, well, he had another drone. And I'm sorry, your name, the sergeant, he was in the field, and then assisting me directly was a gentleman named Tyler Baling, and I'm not sure if he's a deputy, but I think he's a computer forensic expert with the Brown County Sheriff's Department.
Yes, Tyler Baling. Okay. And he is a forensic analyst with them, so he was assisting on this search?
Yes, he was assisting me directly.
Okay. And during the search then, did you travel to a particular location to execute the search?
We did. We traveled to a location on Canush Road,
Okay.
which is, I believe, south of Pulaski. I'm not from here, and I followed people to get there. But,
Okay.
it was on Canush Road.
So that would be 5118 Coonish Road?
That's not where we started. We started at a parking lot in a park right next to that address.
Okay.
That's where we set up camp at first.
Okay. And at the request, and basically the tenor of what I'm getting is you were relying on the guidance of the investigators as to the area that they needed you to be searching on that date.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Okay. So as you proceed to that area on that date, you were the person that was conducting the drone operations, searching and photographing the property in the surrounding area?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And while conducting this search with the assistance of the law enforcement officers who knew the case, was there anything that was observed or noted with respect to evidentiary value for the investigation?
No.
Okay. But as a result of that, you did, during the flight, you did collect some images with respect to the path of the drone?
Yeah, I collected I don't have the exact number, but I
Okay.
believe it was over 400 images.
Okay. But you did prepare a report with respect to this? Showing you it's been marked as exhibit number 50. Do you recognize this?
Yes, ma'am, that's my police report.
Okay. And this is a 4-page document?
Yes, ma'am.
And with respect to it, the first page is your report, but then there are some images that are attached?
Yes, those images indicate the flight path of the drone. There were 6 flights, and those were the GPS captured. The drone operates through a GPS system. We're able to monitor that flight route, and these are the recorded GPS marks as the aircraft was flying its route. So it actually provides me a line on like a Google map that shows where the drone flew.
Okay. And we're going to have the jury here later from Tyler Bailing, but these were the coordinates and things that you would have then offered to this investigation collected by the Sheriff's Department.
Those are just, what you're seeing on that report is just the flight coordinates or the flight movement of the drone.
Yep.
Tyler Bailing took all the photographs off the SD cards right after we were done flying.
So he would be the person that forensically analyzed your data.
That's correct. I did not analyze the photographs.
Overall, though, do you know, and maybe you don't if you submitted that data, but do you know what the square mile radius was of the area that you searched on that date?
I don't, ma'am. I would say it was too large for a drone search, though. It was quite extensive once we got out there and I saw the area, but I don't know how much area that we actually searched.
So essentially, your role is to collect the data, but then it's passed off to the other investigators and forensic analysts to analyze what your data was.
In this case, it was. My responsibility was to gather pictures and some video and pass it off to the agency that was in need, in this case, DCI and Brown County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Mr. DeAngelo, any questions?
Just briefly, Your Honor. So, Captain, to the best of your knowledge, the drone search and the airplane search did not discover any thing of evidential value in this case?
I can say that I did not see anything of evidentiary value when I was flying. I don't know what analysis of all the photos would have uncovered because I didn't do that.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, thank you.
Well, you can step down then, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're going to be stopping for the night. And I do have to read an admonition to you, the same one I've read every time. Jurors, and I'll caution you not to discuss this case with anyone, not even among yourselves, until this case is submitted to you for your final deliberations in the jury room. And you are then to discuss it only among yourselves in the jury room. So we'll see everybody at 8:30 tomorrow morning. Look for Bailiff Tom, Bailiff Joe back there, and they will guide you. Thank you very much. Stand for the jury. Thank you, and we'll see everybody tomorrow morning at 8:30. And you have that, You want to move that exhibit yet?
We would move for the admission of exhibit number, is it 50? 50,
I think we need to do that in front of the jury, though. So
Sure.
why don't we just start tomorrow morning with that?
perfect.
Thank you.
Ally, can we get a list of what's still outstanding?
Thank you, Marvin.